morning, and thanks for being with us. I'm Christine Pei.
And I'm Brady Wakayama.
After 40 years, one of Washington's most notorious criminals is set to be released. We're talking about the so-called South Hill rapist. Kevin Coe has spent the last 40 years in state custody, but now the state is saying they can no longer prove he is a sexually violent predator. Here's a quick look back at his case from our sister station in Spokane.
It was back in January when Coe's public defender asked for an end to his civil commitment. Coe's been involuntarily confined to McNeil Island since 2008 after a jury found he met the definition of a sexually violent predator. By law, the state must evaluate him every year and prove he's mentally ill and dangerous to keep him confined. In a July 2024 report, a psychologist with the Department of Social and Health Services, DSHS, reported Coe no longer meets the criteria. The report shows Coe had no disciplinary incidents at the Special Commitment Center, but did repeatedly refuse to participate in sex offender treatment and education and work opportunities at the center. It also noted his severe depression and deteriorating health, including heart disease, stroke, and mobility limitations that left him using a walker. The psychologist strongly recommended he be placed in an adult group home to continue receiving daily assistance. We have also learned a separate psychologist picked by the Attorney General's office agreed with the assessment. Coe himself is asking to be moved to an adult family home in Spanaway, Washington. He'd still be required to register as a sex offender for the rest of his life, according to Mike Falk with the AG's office. Falk also said the AG's office is offering resources to Coe's victims as the news of his likely release is undoubtedly traumatic. Shannon Mowdy, KREM 2 News.
And that hearing is actually underway or just about to get underway at 9 a.m. out of Spokane right now. We're closely watching, of course, the outcome. Meantime, just to get into the background of things, we heard that Coe is suspected of having committed dozens of rapes in Spokane between the late 70s and the early 80s. Brady, you have been following this and really giving us some background on this case. Can you give some more on that in terms of what you found out?
Yeah, that's right, Christine. The only thing that I would add to that piece that we just aired is that, Coe is essentially tied to up to 37 brutal sexual assaults, primarily in that South Hill neighborhood, which is why, his nickname, I guess, or moniker per se, is that South Hill rapist. But in addition to that, he was originally charged with 6 counts of rape. However, only one of his 4 convictions survived appeals. Some of those convictions were actually overturned due to apparently some of the victims being hypnotized during that police investigation at the time. Now, Coe did serve 25 years for a rape committed in 1981. He was set to be released in 2006, but the Attorney General's office at the time did petition to civilly commit him as a sexually violent predator. Now, fast forward to 2008, a jury determined that that was the case, and that's where he has been on McNeil Island for nearly 20 years, 17 years. He's been there, against his will, but again, getting that treatment, essentially.
And here he is at the cusp of potentially being released here. We do have a clip here from reporting when Coe was arrested and tried back in 1981. Let's take a look.
His name is Frederick Harlan Coe, 34 years old, the son of a respected newspaper family. Not the kind of man you'd expect to find at the Washington State Penitentiary, serving time for 4 rape convictions. Not the kind of man to bring fear to a city he claimed to love.
What do we want? Freedom from rape! What do we want it? No! What do we want?
Looking back, it's hard to imagine just how fearful women in Spokane were. But there was evidence, symbols that would later remind us we are not immune to painful crime, even in Spokane. A man was raping women on the South Hill, and police appeared to be powerless. But on the inside, an investigation was turning up evidence, and it was pointing to a young real estate agent, a native of Spokane. On March 3rd, Frederick Harlan Coe was arrested.
Please rise. Court is in session. You may be seated.
It was a trial matched by few others. At times, there were over 80 spectators lined up outside the courtroom. Inside, the story of 6 brutal rapes was being told. One after the other, the victims identified Coe as their attacker.
So we are hearing about a lot of descriptions about how much fear and pain this man caused in the city of Spokane. We also, there are some concerns here because from our understanding, once he is released, he will be moved to that adult family home in Federal Way. So there's obviously a lot of concerns. Ko is right now 78 years old. We're told that he is still in a wheelchair. But I think the big question still remains, Brady. Do we know why he was being released in the first place?
Yeah, so essentially, Christine, the state has to prove that Ko, in this case, is, still remains a danger to the public. So just recently, within the last couple of years, there have been evaluations from psychologists from the DSHS, as well as a psychologist from the Attorney General's office, and both of those psychologists did agree that Ko, due to his advanced age and also physical limitations, as you alluded to, we've heard that he's in a wheelchair, that he no longer meets that condition for involuntary civil confinement. So essentially, they believe that he's no longer a danger to the public due to those physical limitations, as we alluded to, also his age at 78.
Certainly, and for the past several years, he's been in McNeil Island under that being held there. Brady, you've been researching this case, of course, and you also heard from the state attorney general's office about why they are not opposing this. What have they had to say?
Exactly. It goes back to both of those psychologists, their evaluations of Ko, and the big thing, again, is due to his advanced age, his physical deterioration. He no longer meets that standard that was once held, even just 10 years ago or a little more than 15 years ago, when he tried to get released at the time. So that's the biggest key, really. There is the evaluations from those two psychologists, again with DSHS as well as with the Attorney General's office. Absolutely.
And so we are again watching for that hearing to begin. It is set to begin actually at 9 o'clock out of the Spokane courthouse. What can we expect from that hearing later on today?
Well, yeah, I did speak with a spokesperson with the Attorney General's office at length yesterday. And the big things that I heard from that spokesperson is that Ko, at the time when I spoke with him, he said that he would not be present during this hearing, either virtually or in person. And another note, too, is, as we mentioned, there's a lot of pain, especially amongst the victims and the families throughout Spokane. And some of the victims will actually provide oral statements, at least 3 or 4, according to that spokesperson with the Attorney General's office. And he also added that in addition to those 3 or 4 victims speaking, there will also be another 4 that will be providing written statements as well. So certainly an emotional courtroom hearing taking place perhaps right now.
And one thing to note, we also confirmed this as well, Shelley Monahan, many of you will be familiar that she is a former King 5 employee. She will be, our understanding, at that hearing as well. So we will certainly be watching. So going back to where Ko will potentially be released, he is set to come here. Our area, Federal Way here in Western Washington, he is transferred or set to be, if he is indeed released, to be arriving at an adult group home in Federal Way. Have you heard any reaction from officials there and what might be the conditions of release in Federal Way?
So to start, as far as conditions of release go, we did just get this note from a DSHS contact earlier this morning, but they did tell us that he will essentially, once he's released, or if he's released, he will be put in a van operated by the Win-Win Adult Family Home in Federal Way. They will then take him to the ferry dock inside that van, and then they will take him to become a registered sex offender. That's the key here, that throughout his release, he will remain a registered sex offender for life. So when they do that, once he's in the van, essentially, he's no longer the state's responsibility, and all oversight for him is over. As far as that secondary question, obviously, as we mentioned, that he is going to Federal Way if he is released. I did reach out to the mayor's office, Mayor Jim Farrell, and he did provide me with a statement saying, in part, we do not have any say in the release of Kevin Ko, and we understand the sensitivity surrounding the matter. We acknowledge the community concerns regarding this potential placement in Federal Way, and Mr. Ko is in his mid-70s and confined to a wheelchair. Again, this is a statement from the mayor. While this does not eliminate the possibility of reoffense, we are confident that his presence in Federal Way does not pose a significant public safety risk to our residents. So again, that was a statement that I was provided from the mayor's office in Federal Way. So again, they certainly acknowledge the concerns, perhaps even, perhaps even the concerns and frustrations from, some community members that may be on edge with this potential release. But again, as the mayor noted, he said that we are confident that his presence will not pose a significant public safety threat.
Certainly, you got to think about the anxiousness, perhaps, of the community, not only in Spokane, but here in our area, too. But as you mentioned, there's still a lot to watch. I mean, he is 78. It's been decades since some of these convictions. We do know that King 5's Connor Board will be following this out of Pierce County as well throughout the day. And of course, we'll be following this hearing very closely out of Spokane. The hearing today will also be carrying that broadcast from our sister station in Spokane, of course, with all of the results. Of course, stay tuned right here on King 5 Plus for the very latest on that. For now, thanks for joining us. Thank you.